Welcome to 2016-2017. Hardly seems possible that it's been a year since we were last all together in this forum. Thank you for moving in promptly. I know this is a really busy day, and while the first part of the morning is really important to us, we also know that getting to your meetings and getting your room set up and all of that is really important to you. So we're going to try to be efficient this morning and get things off and running. I want to welcome especially our new teachers who are first-time contracts in Hingham. They've been with us for 2 days. I think they're all still here, which is a good sign because we keep them pretty busy in those 2 days. So I would ask all of the new teachers to stand so that you can be recognized by your new colleagues. So I think you can see, new folks, that we're a pretty friendly bunch here. And I know that you're going to enjoy meeting your colleagues when we get into the department meetings and later on with the building meetings this afternoon, most likely. I also want to introduce some new leadership folks who are taking the reins of a department or a program for the first time. And so let me start with Jamie Labilloir over here. Stand up, Jamie. Jamie is the new assistant superintendent. At this point, Jamie's been here 3 or 4 weeks already, so he's already an old hand, and I can trust him to do anything for me. Also, I want to introduce Liz O'Neill. Liz is a familiar face as well, but Liz has a new role and a new title. And Liz is the Assistant Director of Student Services. So that is a role we've wanted to have for some time now. We're really happy about that. Erica Pollard, you all know. Erica is the new Director of Foreign Language. She's way in the back. Welcome to Erica. And then we have Andrew Nemichi. Andrew's down front. Andrew's the new METCO Director. And you know, we hired Andrew sort of by email phone last Friday, and yet Andrew is here on Monday, and not only here, but he brought his boxes all ready to go for his office at the middle school. So welcome to Andrew. Who did I miss in terms of new leadership people? Okay, I think that's it. All right, I also want to recognize our mentor coordinators. So Courtney Stevenson from Foster and Jen Driscoll from the middle school. They worked really hard over the summer. They work hard every summer, but you know, to try to bring some new touches to the first couple of days in the program there, and I think they were successful. As new teachers arrived in our office yesterday afternoon for the last piece of their 2-day orientation, they all were smiling and happy, and energized and excited, and we're happy about that. We also have mentor folks in each building, and then many of you who are mentor teachers. So if we could have the building reps and the mentors themselves all stand up, because we all owe them, all of you owe them a debt. Okay, I hope that most of you have had a chance to at least drive by your buildings or perhaps be in your buildings. Some people I know like to set up their rooms and so on. But tremendous work has happened over the summer. I am just so excited about what has gone on in every building, outside and inside the building, and lots of things that really needed to be done, but that won't show up. Things like chillers that are on the roofs, and HVA systems that are being retuned, and whole new fire alarm kind of a system. The pull boxes are gone, and we'll have other kinds of notifications. So there are lots more things than you see that have happened, and we're really indebted to to John, of course, who oversees that whole the department, Paul Field, and Paul, actually, this is Paul's last day, he's retiring, and then Doug Foley and Katie Hartman, and their maintenance folks and their custodians have done an unbelievable job this summer, so we're very pleased with that, and I hope that and most of them, I don't think any of them are here except perhaps the custodians in the high school, but you know, as you get back into the buildings, people can never hear enough good job messages, so please remember to do that. As well, you can see what wonderful food we had this morning, and the display. Somebody said to me, it's kind of like going into a hotel lobby, and we feel the same way. So congratulations to Kim Smith and all of her workers as well. And of course, behind the scenes are all of those folks who do work the full year, and those would be the principals in the buildings and the clerical and support staff that are at central office and in each of the buildings. You know, a lot of the things that you need to have in place and the orders that needed to be put in place and the things that need to be delivered to rooms, those things all are done while you're doing something else. Something important, I know, because rejuvenation is important. On the other hand, we are appreciative of all the folks that got us where we are today. And lastly, I want to mention, the new people know this because they've already had a ride, but we remember have 22 brand new buses that are ready to roll next week. So we're pretty excited about that. And we're pretty excited about the reading adoption as well that impacts all of the elementary folks. Lainey and her team, and then the literacy folks had a wonderful plan for getting everything delivered to the right room on the right day. And while the deliveries didn't go exactly as we had planned, it wasn't for lack of a plan, but we're nevertheless excited, and most of what we need is all ready to go for next week. So that's where we are. So let me tell you a little bit about the order for this morning. We're going to hear some words of inspiration and welcome, and subsequent to that, we will have 2 workshops, if you will. One will be the typical annual educator evaluation workshop that you all look forward to every year, that of course is required, but a little new twist because I promised Jen and Courtney, the mentor folks, that we would try to hook on to their theme about excitement and enthusiasm. Jamie's going to do that part of it. Don't count on me for that, but Jamie will do that part of it. So that will happen, and then those of us who are not members of the HEA will leave, and you will have a meeting, an HEA meeting with Alec. So that's the order of things. We hope to be out of here by 10:30, and I think that will happen. And those of you who are meeting with the departments will stay in this building. Outside in the lobby area, there are postings of the rooms where the different departments will meet. So you should try to be in those rooms by 10:30, and the elementary classroom folks will return to their buildings at that time. So that's the order. So let me start by welcoming Liza O'Reilly. Liza is chair of the Hingham School Committee. She brings greetings from the committee and will introduce other school committee members who are here.
Thank you and good morning. I'd like to welcome Carol Falvey is joining me from the school committee. Many of you know her, and she's been on our committee, our longest serving member at the moment. So on behalf of the town of Hingham and my fellow school committee members, I'm honored to welcome you to the Hingham Public Schools 2016-2017 school year. The meaning of the word convocation is the action of calling people together. Today, we take the time to mark and to celebrate our coming together as one community and to establish a common vision for the work that is ahead of us in this coming year. Our community is broad and diverse. I'd like to begin by acknowledging all of the newcomers, teachers, and staff. We are so very pleased that you chose Hingham. You are a group of incredibly talented and fascinating people, and we are thrilled to welcome you to our community. Next, our elementary team. who will explore at East, create magical wizards at Plymouth River, foster enthusiastic heroes at Foster, and be amazing at South. The middle school team who transforms students from tweens to young adults with grace and passion. Our high school team who prepares our students to master their strengths and launch them for success in life beyond the 02043 zip code. And our district staff who provides the leadership to serve our 4,250 students from more than 2,300 families with over 670 dedicated staff working in our 6 schools, covering 686,000 square feet of space. It is a big community. This past year, the school committee has been coming together in a new way to achieve our vision of educational excellence for our community. I just wanted to share with you a few of the cases of decisions that we had to make and some of the things that we were focusing on. We faced 2 critical cost increases that challenged us to fund them in a new way or cut other line items, and also a societal problem that challenges our community. As Dot mentioned, one of these was our elementary reading initiative. We were faced with a one-time in 10-year textbook purchase for 6th grade levels. It was a big chunk. We didn't know how to solve the problem. We collaborated with the advisory committee, the publisher, our staff, and kept a close eye on budgets at the end of last year. This teamwork allowed us to deliver all 6 grades at one time at a lower total cost instead of a multi-year introduction. The new buses, as Dot also mentioned. Hingham school buses were 8 years old, breaking down, causing delays, transporting students to and from school and extracurricular activities. We were facing a 25% increase in the cost of the lease. But we looked at it in a new way. We collaborated with neighboring towns, new vendors, the town staff, and empowered our own staff to work in new ways. We found a new lease option, and an entire new fleet of buses were delivered this summer ahead of time at a significantly lower cost to fit in our budget. So thank you, John, for all your work on that and your team. That was it. We were excited when we saw that big yellow fleet come in. And finally, as we are all aware, the high school faced some challenges with the student culture last year. At every school committee meeting this summer, we have discussed our commitment to creating a more positive culture of respect for our entire district, the students, staff, and broader Hingham community. We consider the broader community to include all citizens and especially the parents and guardians who interact with all of us. We know and acknowledge that it can be difficult, demoralizing, and stressful to work with certain parents and guardians. I have personally experienced such behavior. The climate presented by certain political candidates and media may be contributing to some people feeling that it is okay to act this way. But I want you to know the school committee is committed to improving the behavior of our community. We are working on a statement and program ideas to share with our entire Hingham community, school community, to improve our culture of respect. We are committed to reinforcing that words matter, diversity and differences are welcome, and that civility, politeness, and respect are critically important. We believe that reinforcing this culture of respect will positively join all of us together, encourage greater collaboration, and create a common vision. And we know that we do have a great culture of respect, but it's those few people that try and defeat it that we want to defeat them and improve it for everyone. So together, we are all Hinghamites with the common goal of achieving educational excellence and delivering wonderful successes for everyone in our community. My best wishes to all of you for a happy new year. Thank you.
And next, your president, Alec Porter.
Thank you. Good morning. To our first-year members, welcome to Hingham. And to our knowledgeable veterans and those who are returning from a leave, welcome back. I hope you are all as anxious and as excited to start this new year as I am. Teaching is the only profession I can think of where one can push a button and experience both a definitive start and end. My name is Alec Porter, and I am the president of the Hingham Education Association. The HEA is governed by an elected executive board, often referred to as the E-Board, which meets monthly to discuss local, state, and national issues that affect your working environment. Will all E-Board members please stand up and wave as I call your name? We have June Gustafson, Vice President, Unit A, Political Education Chair. Elaine Foley, Vice President, Unit B. Meg Melanson, Treasurer and Membership Chair. Carrie Beth Sorokoff, Secretary. Sarah Coughlin, Webmaster, Scholarship and Lottery Chair. I think that would make it a bench, right? Like 3 chairs. Let's see. Pat Tomasek, Professional Rights and Responsibilities Chair, Unit A. Bonnie MacArthur, PRR Unit, Chair, Unit B. Tom Melanson, Negotiations Chair, Unit A. Elaine Foley, Negotiations Chair, Unit B. Paula Flanagan, PCEA Representative. Barbara Kahane, Financial and Retirement. And Beverly Vernon, HEF Representative. We currently have one other opening on the executive board, a second PCEA representative to work alongside Paula Flanagan. This is a paid position and the responsibilities are relatively light. If you are interested in finding out more, please do not hesitate to contact me or Paula for further details. Working closest to you will be your building representative, another member in your building who can help you figure out what to do if you have an issue or concern, and also let you know about important local and state activities. I would like to now identify the building representatives in each school. As I read off the schools with the respective building reps, please stand and wave as I call your name. I urge new members and their building reps to meet so that you may identify one another. Starting with the high school, we have Katie Gallagher, Kate Sassarosi, and Jeff Matthews, last minute addition. At the middle school, we have Barbara Kahane, Betsy Orcutt, and Kathy Anderson. At Foster, we have Elaine Foley, Eileen Farrell, and Charlotte Hunt. At East, we have Kathy Joyce, Beverly Vernon, and Gail Georges. At Plymouth River, we have Crystal Bilodeau and Erica Ouellette. And at South Elementary, we have Patty Van Mierlo, Bonnie MacArthur, and Katie Campbell. We also have openings for one more building rep at PRS and one more opening at the high school. These are paid positions subject to one's attendance at the monthly meeting. So again, if you are interested in serving our association, please let me or one of your building reps know. At this point, I probably know what you're thinking. There are about 25 teachers on the HEA executive board along with the building reps. Why so big? Well, because the Hingham Education Association is approximately 430 members strong, comprised of 310 teachers in Unit A and 120 paraprofessionals in Unit B. We are a union of professional educators working to promote the rights and interests of our members and to support quality education for the students who attend our schools. Many hands make for lighter work. Our association is one of nearly 400 local affiliates that belong to the Massachusetts Teachers Association. The MTA provides our field officer, Ashley Adams, who assists us in advocating for decent pay and working conditions and resolving disputes. Some of the issues our representative helps us with are the upcoming contract negotiations for Units A and B. All of our efforts, local, state, and national, will be more successful if more members are involved. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it does take a lot of people to make a difference. So please, take it seriously and answer the call if you are asked to come to a meeting, ratify a contract, elect your e-board members, help elect a pro-education candidate, or contact your member of Congress. These requests are not made lightly. This November, in addition to the presidential election, voters in Massachusetts will also be considering a number of ballot questions, one of which, if passed, could be devastating to public school funding as we know it. I'll be talking about question number 2 later on this morning. But as many of you know from past experience, member involvement can make all the difference. Think, it was 2 years ago that members of the MTA flooded the DESE with phone calls and emails in response to that department's suggestion that teacher licensure be connected to student test scores. The result, of course, was Commissioner Chester withdrawing his proposal based on the MTA's full-throated opposition. By involvement, I also do not necessarily mean leading a massive sit-in outside Beacon Hill or chaining yourself to Governor Baker's car. You can be involved by attending HEA meetings, reading emails sent to you by your president, staying abreast of issues germane to our profession, and attending the 4 official award-winning HEA socials held during the year. I can tell you that the first one will be on Friday, September 30th. So mark your calendars, and as a shout out to our first-year members, those individuals receive a beverage of your choice, compliments of the HEA. We will also be holding our ever-growing and immensely popular HEA Trivia Night on Wednesday, January 25th, with all proceeds going to the Hingham Senior Scholarship. Attendance to this gala event has exploded from 20 participants its inaugural year to over 80 individuals last year. I will be sending out more information regarding the socials and trivia later this month, and will send reminders throughout the year. I also invite you to check out the MTA, NEA, and HEA websites regularly. The HEA can be found at its new and revamped website, www.hinghameducationassociation.weebly.com. Please note the change of address. Keep in mind that while you may not notice a great deal of turnover amongst the members of the executive board, the officers do hold one-year terms and are up for re-election every year, and therefore can be challenged. If you do not feel comfortable challenging one of your peers and running against them, I do hope you will give it very serious consideration to running for an open seat when the opportunity arises at the end of the year. The openings are posted on our website along with other information germane to our association. The E-Board is not some secretive skull and crossbones society whose membership is determined by one's lineage. We are merely individuals and fellow educators who help represent you in times of crisis and who look out for your best interests. That said, sometimes the best advocate is you. After all, isn't what we tell our students? This summer, I, along with June Gustafson of the middle school, attended a particularly inspirational NEA representative assembly in Washington, D.C. In addition to the usual group of excellent speakers, the delegates were treated to an address by Hillary Clinton, a very powerful and moving tribute to the Orlando 49 that brought some of us to tears, and an incredible speech by the NEA's National Teacher of the Year, whose rough and tumble background and upbringing in a poor neighborhood included a 3-generation cycle of teenage pregnancy, no discussion of college and higher education, and attending a school district identified as underperforming. In spite of all these setbacks and obstacles, this individual went on to become the 2016 Teacher of the Year, as she said, due in no small part to the work and dedication of her very own instructors. So all of this led me to the theme of this year's convocation. What could I possibly say or do that would leave you all with a feeling of inspiration? I've always thought Hingham's Convocation Day as a kind of pep rally. Let's show them what we're made of. You've had your time to recharge, now get out there and teach, by glory. And you run down the hallway and storm your classroom like tearing things off the wall. Or something like that. But how best to inspire? God knows there are enough wonderful quotes out there involving educators, children, and the work we do. I thought about some of history's inspirational leaders: Jesus Christ, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, JFK, Martin Luther King, even the late Muhammad Ali, who was quoted as saying, "Go to college, stay in school. If they can make penicillin out of moldy bread, they can sure make something out of you." It's classic. But my reservation in referencing these individuals is they are so far removed from where we are today, right now. What about something a little closer to home? What about quotes from regular people? What about wonderfully stirring quotes from, say, students? And it occurred to me that over the last 20 plus years of teaching, I have recorded probably over 100 pearls of wisdom from my former cherubs, some of whom are now old enough to have their own children, which is scary to say. So I'd like to share some of them with you today as you set off on the 16-17 campaign. To give you a little background, I first started teaching at a small private school in New Hampshire. It was during my very first year teaching in 1995 that 2 students in the same French 1 class on 2 consecutive days uttered the first 2 gems that I will show you in a moment. After New Hampshire, I taught at Reading, just north of Boston, before coming to Hingham in 2006. For whatever reason, maybe to keep things clear in my own head, I decided to color these quotes from New Hampshire in green, Reading in black, and Hingham in red. And lastly, in case you were unaware, I teach French at the high school and have been a language teacher virtually my entire career. And again, the following quotations are all completely impromptu, spontaneous, off-the-cuff nuggets of insightful, motivating observations full of perception and thoughtfulness. I hope you will share them with your students and use them in your everyday lesson planning. And as always, if you have taught before, I am sure you will be able to relate to a few, if not many, of these remarks. If this is your first year, get ready to be dazzled by your astute and erudite students. This is so much easier when you study. So you really have to think before you speak. Do you have pictures of thunder? Monsieur, I don't know this much vocabulary in English. Which actually led me think of a certain presidential nominee. You always act like you never know what's going on. What do you mean? There is a world outside Reading. What is it? Forget about the mistakes. You have to do the right thing first. I don't understand that one either. Wait, what did I just ask? Do French people bleed differently? Like, do they bleed blue? It's not my fault when you won't tell me the answer. You almost sounded like a real teacher. The film has inappropriate language, but that's okay, you're a French teacher. Learn your violence correctly. What's another way of saying teenagers in French? Delinquents? What does that mean in real life? You guys are like white noise. White noise? Is that a racist comment? You can't bring me down, Mr. Porter, I'm too far up. If I were French, which answer do you think I would pick? The right one? Abstinence makes the heart grow fonder. Do they allow redheads to be nuns? I like the sensation of running blindfold. You do need something from a man to become pregnant. Yeah, money. Monsieur, were you weird in high school? You guys stink at cheating. Monsieur has no idea that I'm cheating right now. I don't know how things end up in my mouth. Don't apologize, it takes too much time. He has to care, it's his job. The only reasons I have those nightmares is because of you, Mr. Porter. Monsieur, we're going to be watching a woman giving birth in health class. What's it like? I have to say, even in 2 languages, I was speechless. If I were you, I would pay more attention. What did you say? I'll do what I please, if that's all right with you. School isn't meant for learning, it's meant for education. It's been years since I've been confused for a girl. What's the one thing the French are historically good at doing? Smoking? Monsieur, I think you need to go back to high school. We aren't foreign to the French, we're just better. Wait, are we talking in English or in French right now? I can't find this French word in the dictionary. That's because you're looking in the English section. Food should be synonymous with being motionless. What about Jell-O? Why don't we ever read real fairy tales? No cowboys in France? That's un-American. Because of you, monsieur, I am insane. Monsieur, I don't understand your French. Yes, it's like Canadian. These directions are confusing. Did you read them? No. There's plenty of time for sympathy after you laugh. You're not part of the class, you're the teacher. You can't trust a person who wears makeup. I wonder how I learned English. This book is so predictable. Yes, especially when you read the end first. So wait, are we supposed to understand this? All right, now I think we're in Hingham now. Monsieur, I've never met anyone so talented at making everything sound so disturbing. Don't come into my room, I'm having an encore. That one, in that student's defense, was kind of an impromptu, last-minute, spur-of-the-moment translation of a French sentence. He was doing an activity online, and he came up with that as a translation. Needless to say, he was completely and utterly inaccurate. I can't wait till you're absent. Facial hair is a quality I really value in my world leaders. It's why I like Angela Merkel so much. In France, am I a girl or a boy? Excuse me, a guy or a girl? Just look down. How old is a 9-year-old? Monsieur, we should have a day when we only speak French. Brilliant. I struggle with French. It's like a foreign language to me. Who do you know who walks around with a bow and arrow and shoots people in the heart? Native Americans? I don't get distracted. I just focus on other things. Mr. Porter, do you have any friends at the high school? No, that's okay. I'm challenged. I would have had a 97 if I hadn't gotten all of these wrong. Why do you say man when you're exasperated or disappointed? Because men are disappointing. And I'm going to need therapy after this class. So it's with this final quote that I would like to conclude my comments this morning and leave you with something perhaps a little more serious but no less encouraging. The following is an excerpt from the speech delivered by the aforementioned 2016 NEA National Teacher of the Year, Johanna Hayes of John F. Kennedy High School in Waterbury, Connecticut. Remember that every day your students are observing you. Be exemplary. Continue growing, guiding, and loving your students because you may have the next president, Supreme Court justice, doctor, lawyer, business owner, performer, volunteer, activist, or National Teacher of the Year sitting in your classroom. So whether you were inspired by Mother Teresa, the National Teacher of the Year, or this kid, there is no doubt in my mind that someone, somewhere, at some point this year, regardless of age, will motivate you to do your very best. Thank you for listening, and I wish you all a memorable school year.
Thank you, Alec. So, it's always a challenge to find the right words to leave you with at this annual event. You know, it's the time of year when we're all excited and enthusiastic and energized by the potential and the promise of a new year. We're also likely overwhelmed by the task of getting everything in order for the arrival of the students next week. And certainly in the last few years, a number of you have shared with me some overall frustrations about how much more is expected of all of us in education, no matter what level or what role we play in that. And I'm not thinking just about mandates and legislation, although they have very, very much impact what we are trying to accomplish. But I am struck often by how these expectations, sometimes in the form of demands, are sometimes communicated in personal interactions and meetings, or by emails, or through social media. I absolutely can relate to that reality. And people who work closely with me know that I whine about that more than a lot. But I'm not yet ready, and some of you may think, well, when will you be ready? But I'm not yet ready to give up on the thought that by working together and modifying our own thinking, and by being clear in our vision, in our common and group vision, that we can make a difference, however small, in the current culture of troublesome communications that seem to surround us. I'm always looking for the silver bullet. You know, so 55 years later, I'm still looking for the silver bullet. Silver bullet that will make me more efficient and effective at the things that I do. And so It's time that we can save, or that I can save by being more efficient, is time that I can spend on the things that really matter most in education. So I was at a workshop this summer and I heard about a book. I always bring books that I read over the summer into it. This book is called Meetings Matter. And it says there are 8 strategies for being more efficient and effective about meetings. Well, you know, 8 is something that I thought I could master, so I went right up to Barnes & Noble and bought the book. Well, I had to order the book, so apparently it's not as popular as some other tomes might be. But nevertheless, I thought this could contain my silver bullet. It's written by a man named Paul Axtell, and like so many of the things that I get some inspiration from, it really was written for the world of work and corporate America and business and so on, and not so much about education. So on a monthly basis, I have, let's see, the leadership team meets once a month, the administrative council meets once a month, the All-Town PTO meets once a month, the Teachers Advisory Group meets once a month, the school committee meets twice a month, and then we have a number of other meetings as well, subcommittee meetings and budget season, many other meetings. So wow, there was a lot of potential here for saving lots and lots of hours. But you know, as I started reading the book, I was a little bit disillusioned because I was thinking of saving time and being more efficient. I wasn't thinking so much about being more effective in meetings. However, when I read at the very beginning of the book the author's statement that meetings is really just a series of conversations. So I began to focus a little bit more on thinking about conversations and think about how important conversations are in our jobs. We have conversations with students, with young students in morning meeting, for example, or in setting the rules of a classroom with older children, or in speaking with students about their effort or their grades or their behavior. We converse with colleagues on a daily basis about curriculum planning and instructional strategies and all sorts of other things. We converse with those we supervise or those who supervise us. And of course, we also have conversations with parents and other community members. Now, some of the latter conversations, to follow up on what Liza talked about, are challenging. And they're stressful in some cases. And they require precise use of words, and they require extraordinary patience sometimes, and a really tough skin at other times. I guess I had thought of conversations really in a simplistic way. You know, you have 2 or more people who get together. There's speaking and listening involved, and there's always 1 or more topics for discourse. But as I read more about Axtell's strategies, the 8 strategies for effective meetings, I thought about how some of those meeting improvement ideas translated to the component conversations, especially those conversations that are planned and scheduled, and that seem to be the most challenging and stressful in our roles. I was really struck by 2 thoughts that Axtell had in the context of meetings for him. He reminded readers that conversation is how we create relationships. I never kind of thought of that. The more I thought about it, the more I also thought it may be the way we end relationships as well. He also said that in conversation, everyone is a little bit scared and a whole lot proud. And I thought a lot about that. And I think in a conversation that's a stressful one and a challenging one, you can say that of both parties. Everyone is a little bit scared and a whole lot proud. And the extent to which there's a balance there, I think, gives you some sense of how the interaction, the conversation would go. So I would suggest that, like me, at least some of you approach challenging conversations and perhaps even general life events with the major goal being simply to get to the end of any unpleasantness, with both parties likely at least trying to maintain a polite demeanor, and if we're lucky, offer a handshake at the end. As an aside, I guess if that is all we hope for, to get to the end in an important conversation, likely that is all we will get. Well, certainly I'm all for respect and politeness and civility in everything we do. But I think in addition to surviving an unpleasant conversation or meeting and using polite words, in addition to that, don't we really also want to have achieved some level of progress in having resolved a concern, or perhaps plans for a next step, or at least a consensus to agree to disagree? And here's something I'd never really thought about before. What would I really like for the relationship between me and the person I'm conversing with to be at the end of the conversation? And I guess I would suggest that the degree to which we care about that, about where the relationship between the two parties ends up, we may be more purposeful in how we think about those upcoming conversations and think about the words that we use and how they will be received, and about the balance between the listening and the speaking, and about body language and tone, and especially about where we want to end up at the end of the conversation. Now, as you can imagine, issues that end up at my door often are the result of failed conversations at other levels. But I can assure you as well that some meetings that are requested of me are with rude or arrogant or mentally ill people with unreasonable expectations. So I don't want you to leave here thinking that people come to me because you somehow have failed. I know the difference between a failed conversation and people that have other kinds of issues. Nevertheless, I also know that I have to change my expectations, my perspective, and my attitude in approaching a challenging conversation. Axtell would describe that changing of the attitude as choosing an empowering way to view the situation. If my difficult conversations are to end with my relationship with the individual being in no worse shape than when the conversation began, I need to do some changing about how I think about the conversation up front. And that's pretty important in conversations that are frequent and a relationship that is ongoing. And changing my own approach is really all that I have the power to control. We could wish that we could control the other person's perspective, but we really can only change our own. I think we all at least hope for difficult conversations to go well, but being hopeful is not the same as being intentful and considering of actions, steps that we can take to change in how we prepare for and interact in important conversations. Well, where is all this leading? You know, I can really speak only for me, and I'm thinking, for me, that the new year is an appropriate time for making some resolutions that have to do with the improved quality of conversations. Now, I think I'm generally polite, even with difficult people, but I want my conversations to be remembered for being more than just polite exchanges. Polite interactions are nice to experience. They don't necessarily make a difference and change an outcome or have a path going forward. So the resolutions that I'm thinking about, for me, will address some of my own weaknesses, also known as attitudes that may require adjusting, but perhaps you can relate to some of these things. So here are a few of my failings with respect to conversations I'm willing to share with you. And I'm willing to try to take steps to change. You know, when I'm faced with a really angry person, I so want to defend myself, or my ego, or my honor, and I want to get my version out there really fast. And I want to put that person in his or her place. That's how I feel with angry people. But if I do that, then listening to the person's full concerns falls to a lower priority. And remember, a little bit scared and a whole lot proud enters into the picture. Here's another feeling that I have. Sometimes I'm making assumptions about the intent and the motive of the person I am conversing with, even though I know that most people aren't purposefully trying to insult me or upset me. Well, some of them have that intent, but most people don't have that intent. Sometimes I care so much about what I want to say and don't pay enough attention to what will be heard or felt by the words that I use or the tone of my voice. Sometimes I find myself making more statements, in fact, even judgments, than I ask clarifying questions. Well, I could go on with more examples, because there are more examples, but I think you get the drift. So I have some specific resolutions in mind, and I won't bore you with them because I think knowing the flaws that I have, you can easily see what the correcting actions need to be. And those resolutions, I hope, it's not a good word to use, I intend to make a difference in where the conversations, and very importantly, where the relationships will go. As for hope, however, I do hope that all of you will consider this as food for thought. We do need to change our culture of communication. Liza spoke to that point. There is no silver bullet. I don't think there's a book at Barnes & Noble about how we can do that. There's no single program that we can buy. There's no single speaker on the topic that we can hire. And there's no mandate that we can simply proclaim and expect for success. So where does it leave us? There's only purposeful intent and patience and commitment and expectations of improved discourse and willingness to change, such as we can by changing one conversation at a time. And for those of you who might argue that improved conversations require the cooperation of two individuals, I would suggest that one of them has to make the first move, and I think we can do and should do at least that. So where does that leave my original concern about improving meetings? Because that still is a goal. I've looked at the 8 strategies, I'm thinking about them, but I best liked what Axtell actually said about his own book. And he describes his book about improving meetings as really all about, and I quote, getting 20 people in a room to feel like 5 people having coffee. And that's where I'm going to start with respect to the meetings. So I would like to leave you with some thoughts, and they're actually the same ones I've expressed before. Every one of you will make a difference every day in the school experience of every one of your charges. Every one of you and every day and every one of the students in front of you. But each one of you has the promise and the potential to make the difference in the life of some child. That's an enormous responsibility. But I trust that you all are up for the challenge, and what rewards we can all enjoy in this very important profession that we all have chosen. Have a wonderful year.